The moment you see gold for the first time, something shifts inside you. There's this inexplicable pull, this magnetic attraction to something so shiny, so impossibly bright that your brain just knows it's special. But here's the thing, humans didn't always know gold was special. There was actually a time when we had no idea what this yellow metal even was, let alone how valuable it would become. So when did we first discover gold? The answer takes us back further than you'd probably guess, into a time when the world was radically different from what we know today. We're talking tens of thousands of years ago when humans were still figuring out how to make basic tools, how to control fire, and how to survive another day without becoming someone else's lunch. The earliest evidence of humans finding and interacting with gold is absolutely fascinating. Archaeological evidence points to a time around 6000 BCE, or maybe even earlier, though pinpointing the exact moment is like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. The problem with studying ancient human behavior is that our ancestors didn't exactly leave us a detailed instruction manual. They didn't write down, "Hey, future people, today I found this weird yellow rock and I'm pretty sure it's going to change the world." What we do know comes from archaeological digs, from studying ancient artifacts, and from piecing together clues like some kind of historical detective story. And honestly, the story is wild. Let's go back to around 6000 BCE in places like Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. Humans had already figured out agriculture. We'd settled down in permanent communities. We were developing civilization, creating art, and establishing trade routes. And in the midst of all this development, someone noticed something peculiar happening in rivers and streams. They saw these tiny flakes of bright yellow material mixed in with sediment and rocks. Now, at first, nobody knew what they had. This yellow material didn't seem particularly useful for the things humans actually needed at the time. You couldn't make a weapon out of it. It was too soft to be practical for tools. It didn't keep you warm or feed your family. So why did it matter? But here's where human psychology comes in. Humans have always been attracted to shiny things. We're drawn to beauty, to rarity, to anything that stands out from the ordinary. That attraction to gold, that inexplicable desire to possess it, might be hardwired into us on some fundamental level. And once humans started collecting it, once they realized how rare and beautiful it was, everything changed. The earliest gold objects we've found are surprisingly sophisticated. We're not talking about random lumps of raw metal, we're talking about deliberately shaped, crafted pieces. In ancient Mesopotamia, archaeologists have discovered gold jewelry dating back to around 3000 BCE. These aren't crude attempts either. They're intricate, beautiful, showing real craftsmanship and artistic vision. Someone saw this yellow metal and thought, "I'm going to make something beautiful with this." But the story goes back even further than that. In Anatolia, in what's now modern-day Turkey, there's evidence of gold working dating back to around 6000 BCE. This is insane when you think about it. We're talking about 6 millennia before the Common Era. These ancient people were already skilled enough to work with gold, to shape it, to create ornaments and objects of beauty. How did they do it? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Ancient peoples discovered that gold could be found in its native form, meaning it occurs naturally as actual metal, not just as ore that needs to be extracted through complex smelting processes. When you find gold in nature, it often appears as flakes, dust, or small nuggets in riverbeds and streams. All you need to do is separate it from the sediment, and you've got actual usable metal. No complicated chemical processes required. No need for furnaces or metallurgical knowledge. Just your hands, and maybe a simple panning technique. This purity of naturally occurring gold was a massive advantage for ancient peoples. They could work with it directly. They didn't need to understand the complex chemistry of ore extraction. They just needed to know that this metal was special, that it could be shaped and molded, and that it wouldn't tarnish or rust like other metals they'd discovered. Now, here's something that absolutely blows my mind. Once humans discovered gold and realized they could work with it, it immediately became a status symbol. Archaeological evidence from ancient civilizations shows that gold was treated as something precious, something reserved for the elite, for rulers and priests and the wealthiest members of society. Gold became currency before currency even really existed as a formal system, It became power. It became a representation of wealth and status that could be traded, hoarded, and fought over. The ancient Egyptians were obsessed with gold. They incorporated it into their religious practices, their burial rituals, and their artwork. The pharaohs were buried with vast quantities of gold, believing that they would need it in the afterlife. This obsession with gold shaped Egyptian civilization in profound ways. It drove exploration, it motivated trade, and it literally changed the course of history. But Egypt wasn't the only place where gold became significant. In ancient India, gold held tremendous cultural and spiritual importance. In ancient China, gold was associated with immortality and the divine. In Mesopotamia, gold objects were status symbols that demonstrated power and wealth. Across virtually every ancient civilization, once gold was discovered, it immediately became one of the most valued materials in existence. The question is, why? Why did gold become so universally treasured? Part of it is rarity. Gold is incredibly scarce compared to other metals. Another part is its appearance. It's beautiful. It's bright. It catches the light in a way that most other materials don't. And then there's its malleability. Gold is incredibly easy to work with. Unlike many metals, you don't need sophisticated technology to shape it. You can hammer it, stretch it, mold it into almost any form you can imagine. This made it perfect for creating art and jewelry and sacred objects. But I think there's also something deeper going on. Something about the human psyche that responds to gold on an almost primal level. We see gold as incorruptible. It doesn't rust, it doesn't tarnish, it doesn't decay, it lasts forever. In a world where everything else crumbles and falls apart, gold endures. And perhaps that's why ancient peoples saw it as divine, as connected to the eternal and the infinite. The actual process of finding gold in ancient times wasn't complicated. People would notice it in stream beds and riverbeds, particularly in areas with mountains or rocky terrain where water could wash it down from higher elevations. They'd use simple panning techniques, basically swirling sediment and water in a shallow pan or basket, watching as the heavier gold settled to the bottom while lighter materials washed away. It's a technique so simple that it requires basically no technology, yet it's been used successfully for thousands of years. Archaeological evidence suggests that gold panning and collection occurred across multiple continents independently. It wasn't a single discovery that spread outward. Instead, humans in different parts of the world, separated by thousands of miles, came to the same realization. This yellow metal is valuable. This is remarkable. It suggests something fundamental about human nature. Something about how we perceive value and beauty. As societies developed and gold became more important, people began to venture further to find it. This drove exploration. It drove the development of trade networks. Ancient peoples would travel significant distances specifically to source gold, to bring it back to their communities, to gain status and wealth. In many ways, the search for gold is one of the oldest driving forces in human civilization. The ancient world developed different methods for obtaining gold as technology advanced. Panning remained the primary method, but it was supplemented by primitive mining. Around 2000 BCE, ancient peoples began to actively mine for gold, digging into the earth to reach deposits that couldn't be accessed through panning alone. In Egypt, gold mining became an organized, systematic industry. The pharaohs sent expeditions deep into the desert to mine gold. They enslaved people to do the work. They built infrastructure specifically designed to extract and refine gold. This is when gold started to truly transform society. When finding gold required organized effort, significant investment, and large numbers of workers, it became tied to power structures. Whoever could organize and fund gold mining operations held tremendous power. This became true in virtually every ancient civilization. But let's pull back for a second. Let's think about what it must have been like to be the very first human to find gold. To stumble upon this strange yellow material in a riverbed, to hold it in your hand, to feel its weight, its density, its difference from every other rock and material you'd ever encountered. Your mind would probably be trying to figure out what it was. You might have shown it to others. You might have tried to use it for something only to discover it was too soft for tools. But you probably kept it. You probably saw something in it that seemed worth preserving. That moment, that simple act of finding and keeping a piece of gold, is the beginning of this entire history. It's the origin point of an obsession that would span thousands of years and shape the course of human civilization. By the way, if you want to go even deeper into the secret lives of ancient humans, I just launched a full course called The Secret Lives of Ancient Humans. 10 modules, 3+ hours of content covering everything we never talk about on YouTube. What they feared, how they communicated, what hunted them, and much more. Plus an exclusive PDF guide included. Link in the description. See you inside. Now, the earliest cultures we have evidence of were already working with gold in fairly sophisticated ways. The Sumerians, the Akkadians, the ancient Egyptians, they all had established gold-working traditions that suggest a long period of experimentation and development behind them. This means that the very first discovery of gold probably happened thousands of years before the earliest archaeological evidence we have. We're talking about a discovery so ancient that it predates written history. It predates civilization itself. Some researchers suggest that gold might have been discovered during the Paleolithic era, when humans were still primarily hunter-gatherers. There's no archaeological evidence to back this up because any gold objects from that period would be extremely rare and difficult to distinguish from coincidence. But it's entirely plausible that humans found gold thousands of years before they developed the organizational structures of civilization. What's fascinating is that even if this is true, it wouldn't have mattered much at the time. A hunter-gatherer society has different values and priorities than a civilized society. A shiny rock might be nice to carry around, but it doesn't provide warmth or food or survival benefits. It wouldn't become truly significant until humans developed the kind of stable societies where accumulating wealth and status became important. This is the crucial insight. Gold was discovered long before it became valuable. The value of gold isn't inherent in the gold itself. The value is something we assign to it. It's a collective agreement that this material is worth something, worth keeping, worth trading for other goods. And this agreement only becomes relevant when you have a society complex enough to support trade, to support concepts like wealth and status, to support the idea of storing value in physical form. So the timeline looks something like this. Humans first found gold somewhere between 10,000 and 6,000 BCE, probably through simple observation of riverbeds and streams. This early discovery didn't immediately lead to widespread use or value. But as civilizations developed, as societies became more complex, as humans began to accumulate wealth and establish hierarchies, gold became increasingly important. By around 3000 BCE, gold working had become a sophisticated craft, and gold had become one of the most valuable materials in the ancient world. From that point forward, the history of gold becomes intertwined with the history of human civilization itself. Wars were fought over gold. Expeditions were launched to find it. Entire economies were built around the production and trade of gold. The phrase gold rush didn't originate until relatively recent history, but the human compulsion to find and possess gold is ancient. It's encoded in the very fabric of our cultures and our histories. And here's something that still holds true today. Gold remains one of the most valuable materials in existence. We still seek it out. We still consider it precious. We still use it as a store of wealth. The reason isn't really practical anymore. It's not like we need gold for survival or for any essential function in modern life. Gold is useful in some technological applications, sure, but that only accounts for a small percentage of the gold we extract and value. The real reason we still treasure gold is the same reason our ancestors treasured it thousands of years ago. It's beautiful, it's rare, it's permanent. It represents something timeless and eternal. When you hold a piece of gold, you're holding something that has been valued by virtually every human civilization that's ever existed. You're holding a physical connection to ancient kings and pharaohs and traders and explorers. You're holding a piece of human history. Now let's talk about some of the specific regions where gold played a crucial role in shaping early civilizations. The Nubian region in what's now Sudan was absolutely massive for gold production in the ancient world. The Nubians were master gold workers, and their gold mines were legendary. Egyptian pharaohs were so interested in Nubian gold that they frequently mounted military expeditions into the region to secure supplies. The trade relationship between Egypt and Nubia, built largely on gold, became one of the most important economic relationships in the ancient world. Meanwhile, in the Caucasus region, ancient peoples were working with gold in sophisticated ways as early as 3000 BCE. Artifacts from this region show incredible technical skill and artistic vision. Gold objects from the Caucasus were traded across vast distances, spreading the influence of these ancient cultures far and wide. This tells us something important. Once a culture developed the ability to work with gold, they could use it as a medium of power and influence, trading it across regions and establishing themselves as important players in ancient trade networks. In ancient Mesopotamia, the Sumerians and Akkadians incorporated gold into their temples and palaces. Gold became associated with the divine, with temples and priesthoods. This connection between gold and the sacred would persist throughout human history. In many religions and spiritual traditions, gold became the material of choice for sacred objects, religious ceremonies, and ritual practices. This wasn't random. It was because gold's timeless, incorruptible nature made it seem eternal, divine, connected to something beyond the material world. The technology for working with gold advanced remarkably during the Bronze Age. By around 2000 BCE, artisans had developed sophisticated techniques for creating complex gold objects. They could create detailed jewelry, intricate sculptures, and elaborate decorative pieces. They understood how to blend gold with other metals to create alloys that were stronger and more durable than pure gold. This knowledge was closely guarded, passed down through family lineages and craft guilds, making goldsmiths some of the most respected and valued members of ancient societies. What's really interesting is how different cultures developed their own unique styles of goldworking. Egyptian goldwork had a distinctive aesthetic that's immediately recognizable. The geometric precision, the careful attention to symbolism, the connection to religious imagery, these are all features of Egyptian gold objects. In contrast, Minoan and Mycenaean goldwork from the Bronze Age Mediterranean had a different flavor. These cultures created gold objects that were more naturalistic, featuring animal motifs and flowing designs that reflected their maritime culture. This diversity of styles tells us something important. Gold didn't just represent wealth and status universally, it also became a vehicle for artistic expression and cultural identity. The way a culture worked with gold, the designs they chose, the objects they created, these reflected their values, their beliefs, their understanding of beauty and meaning. The amount of effort ancient peoples invested in obtaining and working with gold is actually staggering when you think about it. In Egypt, entire expeditions were organized to travel into dangerous desert regions to access gold mines. These expeditions involved hundreds of workers, required careful planning and logistics, and often resulted in significant casualties. Yet the pharaohs considered it worth the effort. They were willing to spend enormous resources pursuing gold because they understood its value not just as wealth, but as a symbol of power and divine favor. In the Americas, the pre-Columbian cultures developed their own sophisticated gold-working traditions independent of the Old World. The Chavin, the Mochica, the Nazca, and eventually the Inca all became master gold workers. They created stunning gold objects that demonstrated incredible technical skill and artistic vision. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the Americas, they were shocked by the wealth of gold they found. They didn't realize they were encountering cultures that had been working with gold for thousands of years, developing their own traditions and techniques completely independently from anything happening in Europe or Asia. This is one of the most remarkable aspects of gold in human history. It inspired similar behaviors and values across vastly different cultures that had no contact with each other. Whether you were an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, a Nubian king, an Indus Valley trader, a Chinese emperor, or an Inca ruler, gold was universally understood as valuable, precious, and worthy of acquisition. This suggests that there's something fundamental in human psychology that responds to gold. It's not cultural conditioning. It's something deeper, something almost instinctual. When we talk about the discovery of gold and its role in human civilization, we're really talking about one of the foundational moments in human development. The moment when our ancestors first recognized that they could accumulate wealth beyond immediate survival needs. The moment when they understood that rare, beautiful materials could be used to represent power, status, and identity. The moment when economics and aesthetics were born. The search for gold throughout history has driven exploration, trade, conflict, and innovation. It's motivated people to travel to dangerous and remote regions. It's led to the establishment of trade routes that connected distant civilizations. It's sparked wars and revolutions. It's inspired art and literature and music. Few materials in human history have had such a profound influence on the course of civilization. And yet, when we ask when humans first found gold, we're asking about something that happened so long ago that we can't pin it down precisely. We can only estimate based on archaeological evidence, and that evidence only goes back to around 6000 BCE, maybe earlier. But the actual discovery probably happened long before that, in moments now lost to time, when individual humans first encountered this beautiful yellow metal and recognized something special about it. So when we ask the question, when did humans first find gold, we're really asking about a fundamental moment in human development. We're asking about the birth of civilization itself. We're asking about the moment when our ancestors first looked beyond immediate survival and started thinking about accumulation, about beauty, about value and meaning. The answer is that it happened so long ago that we can't pinpoint it with precision. It happened somewhere in the ancient world, probably in multiple places simultaneously, as different human societies independently discovered this magical yellow metal. And once discovered, it changed everything. It set humanity on a course that would lead to complex societies, to trade networks, to wars and exploration and art and culture and everything that makes human civilization what it is. Gold didn't make human civilization possible, but it certainly shaped it. It was there at the beginning of recorded history, and it remains with us today, still glinting in the sunlight, still captivating our imaginations, still representing something timeless and valuable that we're all drawn to in ways we don't fully understand. That's the power of gold. That's why it matters. That's why, even today, we can't stop finding it, seeking it, and treasuring it.